Hello and welcome to part 2 of world building, and specifically, how does your world evoke story? In the last section, it took us a little bit of time to work through the various aspects that help evoke story, and what we're going to do now is we're going to translate those into a real world setting, or at least your fantasy world, which should feel real for all intents and purposes. Let's recap. To evoke a sense of story, your world needs to offer glory. Your world needs to offer adventure. It needs to offer resistance. You need to set the scale, and you need to evoke a sense of tone. So how does that help us build our world? Well, let's look at the scale first. Let's say that we've decided that we want to create a moderately scaled world. This means that there aren't massive extremes. It means that anybody who is, say, above level 10 is considered to be remarkably powerful. It means that gigantic kingdoms are not particularly huge. They're fairly large, but they're not gigantic. To give you a comparison, I would say that the Europe arena would be a moderately scaled world. You have lots of little kingdoms vying for little bits of power. These are not going to be world-changing events, so he said. Nonetheless, we have a small world that we're now starting to create. Let's set it in a steampunk world. We need to offer glory. What kind of glory are we going to offer? Well, we know our players. Our players like to have a fairly decent balance between combat and problem solving. They want some kind of glory. Okay, good. We're going to offer them the opportunity to participate in an army. It gives them the opportunity for combat. It gives them the opportunity for glory amongst their peers. The standard platoon or battalion is not really, though, offering us much adventure. It seems to be a little bit of a, well, it's been overplayed and we're starting to expect to be saving Private Ryan. But does it offer us adventure? Does it offer us interesting adventure? What happens if our particular players are set in a division that is used primarily as a decoy division? Or they're used as a division that goes out and scouts before the main army arrives? Or perhaps they're in the experimental armor division, in which case they're driving giant steampunked AT-ATs. Sorry for the cross-genring. That perhaps offers us a little bit of adventure. But do you see now how by trying to extrapolate how we're going to offer the guys or girls an adventure, our world is starting to change and take shape. We have a steampunk world where now we potentially have a steampunk world that needs the division of mechanical walkers, something that can possibly explode. It also means that we can start to delve into something a little bit more glorious than simply trudging through the trenches. If we have a world that is going to be offering that, what is the resistance? Well, we need some kind of enemy, obviously. This could be in the form of internal individuals, but that's more of an intrigue spy kind of world where I want to say this is not what our players are looking for. They're looking for guns and glory, and maybe a little bit of difficulty. So what springs to mind is to create some kind of villain that they can really get to grips with. This resistance then allows us to go, okay, so we have this wonderful steampunk world where we're now starting to look at two kingdoms or empires clashing against each other. What is it that makes the other empire so much more difficult? Well, now we start coming to looking at what sets the tone. Because if the other empire is perhaps undead, now we have steampunk versus undead. It might not sit well for the purists out there. Steampunk tends more to associate with perhaps demons, elves, and pixies than with the undead. Maybe that's what you like. Maybe it isn't. Perhaps the enemy that they are facing are all mechanical automatons. And we're looking at steampunk in the strictest sense of the word, where the machines are now taking on the men. that might be slightly interesting, especially if the machines that the men are flying now suddenly take on their own personalities when they come too close to the enemy. Well, now that offers us some interesting resistance, doesn't it? And it also gives us an interesting adventure opportunity in terms of what are our men going to do when all of their mechanical equipment that they have now been relying on starts to turn against them. And then it gives us further glory insofar as they're not killing innocent human beings or fellows in arms, they're now starting to kill robots, which means we could have gigantic robots. We did say the scale was medium, so I would count a gigantic robot weighing maybe 50,000 tons to be the extent of our extremism. Still, a fully automated steampunk Titanic beast could be quite interesting. Do you see now how just looking at what are we going to do to evoke our story has actually started to evoke our world? And in the next few sections, you'll see when we look at how does it help drive story, how does it change story, and how does it control story, those other three columns that I was talking about will start to define our world in ways that you couldn't possibly have imagined. I hope you like this very short little section on how evocation of story helps create your world. If you did, hit the like button. If you really liked it, hit the subscribe button. We love subscribers, especially on Toast. We have a Facebook page, so you can stalk us there to your heart's content, and we would love your feedback. We do get questions from time to time, and we do try and answer them either online or through one of these little sessions. We would love to hear from you. Until then, happy gaming.